We're back, live in studio with Samuel Azurzer in the business headquarters of Radio Shalom, 1650 AM in Montreal, with the Money and Business Show. You have questions about your personal finances? You need advice in making sound financial decisions? Samuel and his guests are ready to take your call at 514-738-4100, extension 200. And now, back to the Money and Business Show.
We're back with Mr. Rick DeWolf. He's a professional engineer, independent energy consultant, straight off from Alberta. Today, it's topic, we're talking about oil pipelines and communications with the public. Now we're going to go through our next segment here, and we're going to be hearing a clip of the Idle No More is a worldwide indigenous movement started by the First Nations tribes of Canada as a way to help protest, the constitutional treaty rights of the Indian Act. These rights are being threatened by the proposed C-45 bill. Let's go hear a clip.
The Idle No More movement, the indigenous movement, this is a continuation of the 500-year-long indigenous resistance. It's much bigger than one piece of legislation. It's much bigger than Prime Minister Harper, much bigger than any one piece of anything. It's about this continual resistance that we got to a consumeristic, non-indigenous, non-sustainable way of life. We're trying to get our own people's consciousness awakened. That's the main primary goal. We have to worry about internally fixing our own yard before we start worrying about other people's yards. Discipline requires being on message. It requires living according to the principles that we're saying we're living according to, those indigenous principles. It's bigger than one piece of legislation. Half of these people, they won't know, and the people that are in the mall, the non-natives, won't know what C-45 is, won't know what anything about, and that's fine. But it's a bigger thing. It's about, as Native people, we're not going to be idle no more. We're not going to be silent no more. One person can make a movement. We can make a cause happen. We have the ability to do that. And if the traditional methods, legislation, legal lawsuits, et cetera, don't work, well, we can do insurrection. We can do other means. We have that capacity within us.
To please come forward.
I was taught and told that my family, our Puyallup people, were put here to protect our brothers and sisters, the nations of salmon. And when I come on that console, the whole environment was destroyed. There were dams, there was silt, there was poison, the bay was poisoned, the headwaters were ruined, and we also had a piece of legislation that allowed us to sell our property. And right after that legislation, two of my beautiful young grandaunties were murdered for their land. There was a genocide, a total genocide of the Puyallup people, just mass murders. We were assigned guardians because we couldn't read, write, or speak English. They gave the land to each other. They kept the money for probate fees. They had the sheriff haul us off our own property. And the Puyallups were homeless on our own reservation. That's what this piece of legislation up in Canada could do to those people.
This film documents one of the many events worldwide in support for the Idle No More movement. Rick, the bill C-45, according to the Aboriginal people or the First Nations, will significantly decrease, well, their decision making. And this is what the whole point about this whole show is, about communications, right?
Yes. And I think a lot of it was when they looked at the legislation, there wasn't the Idle No More and others are saying there was a lack of communication by the federal government of various affected parties regarding the change in legislation, and it the Aboriginals are one group that believe that the change in legislation affects them more directly than others. It highlights the challenges and the problems associated without adequate communications, or the belief that there isn't adequate communication among various parties. And so you end up with more protests. And this is where I strongly believe that by introducing more effective and early communication, everyone can understand, has the opportunity to understand the other person's point of view or the other party's point of view, and you can get details, you can get the information, what research was done, what if there's a decline in review of particular lakes, what's going to be done to ensure that it's not zero, but there might be something, and that people can voice their concerns, and the party, say in this example, the federal government, can explain why they have declined it, rather than after putting forward the legislation and then everyone jumping on either pro or against it, and then it becomes a defensive move.
So just to cut in there for a minute, the tribal leaders, what they're basically saying is that they're not going to have no control over how corporations make use of untapped natural resources, specific on indigenous territory protected under, their sovereignty treaties. And could you explain a little bit more what C-45 bill is to our listenership here at Radio Shalom?
Well,
I mean, in general, in general.
In general is that there are areas where there could be expedited approval, which means basically your certain time frames. For example, the review on the Enbridge Gateway project. The original review process basically was somewhat, it didn't have a deadline, if you want to say. So it could go on and on. But because of earlier situations, particularly the Mackenzie Valley pipeline review, not so much by the NEB, by what they called the Joint Review Panel, which was a combination of a variety of people, an NEB, social economic, there were Aboriginals on the panel, there were social economists, geographers, those type of things. It went on and on and on, and probably exceeded the sort of expected time frame between 2 to 3 years, longer than what everyone expected. Because of that, I think there was a real emphasis to push to set up some tighter timelines, to set up a more focused review, and obviously some parties would like the unlimited time frame, but what it does do is slow down the potential for investment. It creates a much greater uncertainty when there's no time frame to the investment community, and at this stage we're in a international investment look at. It's not just Canadian, and having been involved and participated in some of these reviews, it has increased. The oversight has increased. The number of parties have increased. For example, on Keystone, or not Keystone, Gateway project, which goes from Alberta to Kitimat, BC, an oil pipeline, then tanker facilities. There was something like 4,000 plus interventions, but I'm one of the ones that believe if it's that many, a lot of these are single individuals just filling out a form and sending it in. And typically in the past, you would consolidate these parties that have similar interests, and they'd be represented by one or two groups, as opposed to 3,000 or 4,000 individuals. So all of this gets back to this need to have more focused education and understanding of how the system works and what a new project will do.
Thank you, Rick. Just stay on the line. We've got to pay our bills. Again, we have Mr. Rick DeWolf is a professional engineer, an independent energy consultant from Alberta. Again, my name is Samuel Zerzer for the Money Biz Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM in Montreal. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
We're back, live in studio with Samuel Zerzer in the business headquarters of Radio Shalom 1650 AM in Montreal with the Money and Business Show. You have questions about your personal finances? You need advice in making sound financial decisions? Samuel and his guests are ready to take your call at 514-738-4100, extension 200. And now, back to the Money and Business Show.
Our topic today will be oil pipelines and communications with the public. Again, my name is Samuel Zerzer for the Money and Business Show. Thank you for tuning in. And we're going to go listen to a clip of the Sierra Club Executive Director, Michael Brune. Actually, he's not very happy with the Nebraska decisions. Let's hear a clip.
For the first time in its 120-year history, the Sierra Club has said it will officially participate in civil disobedience to protest tar sands oil and the Keystone XL pipeline. The environmental group's leaders say they plan to risk arrest or even provoke arrest next month in an unspecified protest here in Washington. The Sierra Club's executive director, Michael Brune, joins me to talk about that decision and more. Michael Brune, welcome to the program.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me on.
And I know you have said that you won't reveal specifics about the protest, but you have said it will be in advance of the very large Keystone protest planned for over President's Day weekend. Is this a message that you are directing directly at President Obama?
It is. You know, I was at the inauguration and was very inspired by the president's speech, where he outlined the threats that we face from a destabilizing climate, but also the benefits that come from a clean energy transition. And so we want the president's ambition to match the scale of this challenge. And the civil disobedience that we'll be doing in February is designed to both support and challenge the president to do all that he can to meet this moment.
But why do you think that civil disobedience would make a difference in his mind in a way that lobbying, political pressure, all sorts of outside pressures wouldn't?
Well, it's a fair question. But civil disobedience is part of a great American tradition. It's helped to bring our country out of its darkest hours. And so we believe that civil disobedience will help us to create really a breakthrough political environment where we're able to achieve solutions to climate change that have eluded policymakers over the last several years.
Rick, we just heard the Executive Director, Michael Brune from the Sierra Club, civil disobedience. He's talked about the inauguration. He was listening to the President, threats of destabilization, climate. Rick, these are the type of pressures that the President Barack Obama is going to have in the next month or two. What do you think?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I believe that was one of the reasons that, in addition to the issues around Nebraska, was this whole aspect that the current administration in the U.S. is significantly supported by the environmental groups and other, if you want to say, socially minded groups. And there's going to be a lot of pressure. However, this is Obama's last term. There's also the U.S. economy still needs significant improvement, and there's a lot of jobs and related to the pipeline construction. But not only that, steel. And so the Midwest is one of the areas where pipe will be constructed. But we've seen, and as the Sierra Club president said, that civil disobedience is been part of
the American way.
The American
way. I just love that line.
Yeah, and so the reality is, while green energy is what I would say everyone wants to move to, it's still very expensive relative to oil and gas, to petroleum products. Oil is still being used for the majority of a lot of electrical generation. It's perhaps far better than the coal industry, although there's always that balancing aspect. It's used in vehicles, and while vehicles are becoming more efficient, it's still there. It's still one of the cheaper products for our economy. So it's a balancing issue. They target the oil sands in Western Canada. We've seen both Canadians, U.S., and other parties attack it. Canada still, on a per capita basis, is a high utilizer of petroleum products. But the reality is we have a very large country, the second largest in land mass in the world, a very small population, and so that results in the need to transport our goods across the country and for exports, and our utilization comes high. But all of this comes down to people have a right to protest. We've seen protests representing in the logging industry, forest industry. We've seen it within the oil and gas industry and drilling areas. So it's going to happen. I think at this stage, the economy is one of the key issues that has to be considered by Obama.
So, Rick, just like the tree huggers, the environmentalists out there, we're going to see like pipe huggers. Is that what it is? The pipe huggers? I know. I just made that up. I just thought of it just quickly.
No.
Is that the type of civil disobedience that we're going to be seeing?
I would suggest that, well, they can't hug a pipeline because it's buried underground.
No, the one being built.
Well, even the one being built, I guess they could go out only if it's been approved. Then they can go out and perhaps put up roadblocks or whatever they want. But I think it'll be just demonstrations that they've done a year ago whereby they have fake pipes and they kind of prance around with it or demonstrate down the street with it on their shoulders, and the potential of taking maybe a barrel of oil or something and throwing it at people. I don't know. But again, if they have the right to protest and it doesn't cause anyone harm, then they can do it. I would like to see a better understanding, because they throw a lot of erroneous facts and figures many of the times, and oil pipelining is at this stage still the safest means of transporting oil around North America. And the number of breaks, while we've seen some significant problems in the last year or two, if you look at the last 5-10 years, or even how they've been operating for the last 50 years or more, it's a pretty small amount relative to how much oil is being shipped around North America.
So, Rick, let me ask you, we have maybe a few minutes left. Will early and effective communications with the Aboriginals or the First Nations or just regular people resolve all of the potential problems that we have? between companies, the oil companies, the federal government?
I think my own view is no, it won't resolve all the problems, but I think it will significantly reduce some of the issues. There will always be groups like the Sierra Club and others who oppose any development of the oil and gas industry. It's basically in their mandate to oppose all development.
So what is the most important issue for you right now?
Well, the important issue that I've been able to kind of look at is really having all parties prior to what's happening is to get out and explain how the industry works, how pipelines are developed, what are the challenges, what are the risks, how those challenges and risks can be mitigated, and also the significant benefits that can occur, both through jobs, through not just jobs in the pipeline side, but all the auxiliary areas such as steel manufacturing, and you go on, and the taxes that are paid.
So, Rick, to recap, is still the safest way to transport oil and gas through the pipelines?
Most definitely.
Good. Rick, I want to thank you very much. That's Rick DeWolf, is a professional engineer and independent energy consultant out of Calgary. Thank you very much and joining our program today. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Again, our subject was the oil pipeline and communications with the public. My name is Samuel Zerza for the Money and Business Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM Montreal. Happy capitalism. God bless you all.
Now it's your turn.
And now we're going to be listening to the end of the Idle No More is a worldwide indigenous movement started by the First Nation tribes of Canada. This film documents one of the many events worldwide in support of the Idle No More movement. Let's hear it.
She's doing what we have to do. You need to shout because it's working. You know, it's your turn. It's your turn. It's their turn. You can't be quiet. If you shut up, you know what's going to happen. It's going to get messy, and there's going to be another genocide. So keep it up. Keep shouting. Keep fighting. If all you have is your body, put it there. Your ancestors did. They fought for every right you enjoy. Your freedom of religion, property, the resources. And you know what? Your great-great-great-grandchildren will do the same thing. Indian, and that's how we are. That's why we're here. All my relations.
Shalom AM, money and business. Simon Zerza, let's get 'em. Oh, it won't be long before that money hits you. You reach a certain point where that money is an issue. Tax cut, inflation, learn about investment. Shoot another perfect show that can help them. Shalom AM, I'll be tuning in live. Simon Zerza, got the advice for you and I. Kick your feet up, listen to the speaker. Got questions, no sweat, take that number. It's real easy, it's 514-738-4100. Get connected, hit that extension, it's 200. Money and business, that's what I'm talking about. Money, money, Money and business.
Opinions stated by various contributors to the Money and Business Show and related programs are not to be considered as endorsed by Radio Shalom, its employees. Visitors to this program are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions. Please read your prospectus and consult with your own investment advisor.